Recording Studio and Arranger Keyboard Sound Modules. If you want to use Arranger Keyboard Sound Module, I can recommend to you Roland BK-7. There is several reasons why to use sound module instead of keyboard, and why BK-7. One of the reasons is because BK-7 is very small, but he has inside everything that you can find in BK-9 in Roland Arranger keyboard. And you can play all styles from previous Roland keyboards, Arranger keyboards, and doesn't take too much space, and everything that is inside of that module you can control with your MIDI controller, and you can control with Cubase. Beside of that module, I have some workstation modules like Yamaha Motive Rack XS, and I have Integra 7, and I have on my left side I have SD90 from Ketron. But the most usable sound module, Arranger sound module for studio and for studio recording, live performing in studio recording with separate MIDI channels, separate tracks, the best sound module is BK-7. With BK-7 you will not have any kind of problem. This sound module, all patterns are made in MIDI format. That is very important, because if you have live guitars and live sounds, you will get trouble if you want to use synchronization, and they never work very well with synchronization. Very often you're out of synchronization, and those live instruments, you cannot edit them, you cannot separate mix in those instruments, you cannot change tempo, you cannot change key. You are just, you can take whatever you got. If you like it, if you don't like it, you cannot do anything about that. Especially if you are using live drums. In this case, that MIDI recording of live drums doesn't have mapping that you can use for your virtual instruments. And there is a lot of virtual instruments, VST drums, that sounds better than any Arranger keyboard or any another sound module. So you can, if you have proper MIDI recording, even if mapping is not the same, you can use, because you can record all elements of drum section, so you can after that just do remapping. But if you are recording live instruments like drums, is not correct mapping. There are not all instruments there, so is not usable too much. Now, why Roland BK-7 and how it works in live recording? First, I will play you something with BK-7, just one short melody with accompaniment. Then after that, I will explain you which kind of connection do I have and how it works. So let us start. First, I'm going to engage here synchronization. I'm going to Studio, Transport. I'm going to Project, Synchronization, Setup, and Destination. And I'm going to choose MIDI Express channel number 5. Okay, let me first explain you actually connection that I have here. Then we will hear some recording. I'm using controller Novation 61 SL MK2. This controller Novation, I have my template that I made, and template is controlling at the same time Roland, Cubase, and virtual instruments inside of Cubase. In this project, what I want to use, I want to play left side of the keyboard. I want to play accompaniment style from Roland, and in right side of the keyboard I want to play solo instrument from Contact, my favorite virtual instrument. How did I connect this? So I used MIDI cable, regular MIDI cable, output from Novation, and I connected it to Roland BK-7. So in this case, on left hand up to note B2, when I play chords, I am sending messages to BK-7, only to BK-7, not to computer. Everything, my chord progression that I play, everything goes through MIDI connection that I can set up if I go to edit and routing. In routing, so just a moment, let me exit edit. I'm going to zone edit. If I go to zone edit, I have two zones. First zone is for my left hand, and it goes from first key to B2. That is split to B2. And second zone for right hand is from C3 and rest of the keys. Now, in first zone, I am sending messages, as I mentioned. In first zone, let me go just back to the first zone. I'm sending messages through port M1. M1 means MIDI port, regular MIDI port with MIDI cable. So those messages are going to Roland. Then Roland is connected with regular cable, MIDI output cable to Motu interface input. So, and Motu is connected to my computer. So what is happening? I play, messages are going to Roland, and from Roland they are going to Motu, and in computer they are not coming back because my local control in my BK-7 is on off. So what I have here in my project, I have MIDI channels, separated MIDI channels. All those channels are the same channel number like inside of Roland. So that is my rhythm section, that is style section, with all those parts that are making part of the style. And with a particular MIDI channel, you can choose any MIDI channel, but you have to match channels on Cubase with channels on BK-7. For example, I'm using channel number 5 for bass, 6 for accompaniment, 7 accompaniment, 8 accompaniment, then 11, then 9 for percussion or some other instruments, 10 for drums, and 11 and 12 as well for accompaniment. So parts of the style. Beside of that, I have one MIDI track that is dedicated, it says style, to controlling which style I want to use, if I want to play that style, if I want to use for song creation. And channel number 1 is dedicated to my right hand if I decide to use right hand to play sounds from Roland. But in my case, I didn't decide that. I decided to use sounds for right hand, for solo section from Contact. So I have Contact player and I'm using Electric Sunburst Deluxe Melody. It is native instrument guitar. So let me put it for a moment down, then explain you further what I'm doing here. Now, if I press to MIDI channel, to this channel is sending messages on channel number 16 to my BK-7, and with this connection, I have control for all styles that are inside of this sound module. So I have template that I made. In this template, I have all styles, factory styles, and I can even put my user styles. If I make performance list, then I can control those user styles by sending messages, and I can make template for all those styles. When I put them inside in the list, then I can put messages and call any of those styles that is in my list, and they are actually on USB stick that is connected to this device. In USB stick, I have a lot of styles. So beside of style controlling, if I click on any of another channels, MIDI channels, and if I go here, you can see that I have instrument control, tones. So there are a group of instruments, and all of instruments or sounds that I have inside of Roland BK-7, I can control them. Now, let me show you why is this good. If you are a composer, you want to create music, and you want to get some ideas, Roland BK-7 will help you. If you just go through different styles and different music genre, you can just change a chord progression, and you can get idea in which direction you want to go. Pop, rock, ballad, style of music, and then if you play keyboard in front of you, then you can get idea of one song and you can start creation of the song. Now, look at that. If I just play chord progression, now I have synchronization established between Cubase. I have tempo 75, so when I press enter button on my computer keyboard, it will start to play my Novation. It will start to play a Roland BK model. Now, by the time it is playing style, look at what I can do. I will stop it for a moment. So, I told you I can control styles from this MIDI channel. So, instead of going through all those buttons here, jazz, Latin, and then when I find button, I have to turn this and find a style that I want to hear, and then I have to press. So instead of doing this and losing time just to going through this, because it's not so practical, I can just open that here part and I can see all my styles. So now look at that. I play something. So let me say I want to do sync start from here, and now just go through the styles. Press next style. Press next style. Go to disco style. Go back to this part and press this style. As you can see, I can go through styles, I can go through instruments, and on this channel, channel number 16, I'm not recording anything, I am just going through styles, and when I choose style, then this style is going to be saved with project. So whenever later I open this project, I will know which style I did use for that project. And it can stay there. But I can further go and change instrument in that style, or do any changes with instruments, with tempo, with keys, whatever I want to do, I can do that in editing through Cubase. So look at that. This style track doesn't have any input routing, but output routing is Roland BK-7. And that Roland BK-7, as I mentioned, I'm using my template of Roland BK-7. That is output routing is Express. It's MIDI Motu Express 128 port number 5. If I open that device, if I go to device and patch banks, I will be able to see all my sounds and all my styles. That is actually my template that I did create, that I'm using for music that I'm making with Roland BK-7. Now, what is going with other tracks? Other MIDI tracks, I have input routing Express 128. Not all, just Express 128. Why that? Because when I play my keyboard BK-7, I want to make sure that only messages on that track are coming from Roland BK. So not from other stuff that are connected. And output routing is to Roland BK-7. So each of those channels that I have, channel number 5, 6, 7, 8, then I have 9, 10, 11, 12, all those channels are routing is MIDI Express channel number 5, and output, that was input, and output is Roland BK-7. So that is my style section, and it is going to be recorded separately, each channel in my project. So I can later, I can transfer everything in audio format, or I can change instrument, or I can even use virtual instrument and work with this project further. Now, for right hand, as I mentioned, I'm not using Roland. I prefer to use Sunburst guitar from my favorite virtual instrument. It is Contact. Now, Now I will just move this guitar on side, and then I will show you, I will record one part in real time performing, a real time recording, separate MIDI channels, separate tracks, and we will see how it works. Everything is synchronized very well with my computer because Roland synchronization works without any problem. That is second reason why you should work with MIDI instruments instead of using sound modules and like live guitars, live drums, because you will never get synchronization, good synchronization with live instruments. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a lot of advantage to use them in studio recording. Not advantage, it is a lot of disadvantages because you cannot control them if you want to use them in studio recording. So now, let me record something. My synchronization is ready, my keyboard is ready, and I'm using, for example, variation and starting to record. I can press key, but it will not start until I press enter button on my computer keyboard. There is just one thing that I forgot. I forgot to press actually a recording button. So let me start again. Recording button. And now I'm going to press stop button. And now what do I have here? I have ready my project. Now disconnect MIDI, disconnect here record button. Now what I can do, I will go to transport. I don't need any more project synchronization now because I don't want any more start sound module with computer keyboards. So because everything is already done, now I want to listen my project. Separate tracks, MIDI recording. Listen that. as you can see, what I did here, first I chose a style, I got some inspiration, and whatever I played, it doesn't exist. That song doesn't exist. It is just something that I made right now. So that style gave me inspiration to play something in this tempo with this chord progression, and I played some kind of melody, and I have whole my rhythm section. Actually, every part of accompaniment is recorded here separately. If I click on anything of that, drums, you can see those are my drums in MIDI recording. If you can see, now I have other instruments here. It is here, let us listen which instrument is this. Just play it for a moment. Piano. Now you can hear piano. There is bass guitar. Now, beside of bass guitar, let us listen to this instrument. Strings. What do we have here? Guitar. So we can see our mistakes in chord changing, so we can just erase those instruments that are mistakes. So in proper chord changing, delete them, and then we can just pull this part on the beginning of the measure. Or what we can do do quantizing of whole song, and after quantizing, we can get rid of those small notes. Just if we go select everything, go to project, actually not project, to MIDI, functions, and delete notes, and we can decide which notes we want to delete, just those short notes, and then when we press delete, it will delete all our mistakes. Quantized song, deleted all mistakes, and everything is done perfectly well right away in Cubase, very fast. So, and your song will going to be in perfect shape, so you can just continue. You can continue in work. You can change tempo, change key. You can continue to play next part, and then when you finish all parts, just edit them. But what is nice if you are using a Roland BK-7? It has very sweet sound, nice sound, studio ready. Those instruments, they sound really good in studio environment. And it is a very stable instrument comparing, for example, to other sound modules, especially sound modules that are using live drums. This instrument is very, very stable. So no problem with synchronization, no problem with freezing, no problem with sound that are like freezing of the sound, freezing of the module. So everything is working perfectly well. And if you are working on your project, you can concentrate on your music. You can work on your music instead of spending your time in solving problems that you can get through synchronization, freezing of the keyboard, restarting keyboard, MIDI connection, or something like that. Everything works perfectly well. So that's why this module is actually the best sound module on market for home recording or for any kind of recording in multi-channel MIDI recording in studio. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in my next video. Please subscribe if you like my videos, and thank you very much for watching them.